If you are listening to this right now, it is not accidental. You were not meant to hear this earlier. Only now, at this exact moment, when the noise around you finally quieted enough for something deeper to slip through. This message does not reach everyone. It finds the ones who are awake at strange hours. The ones who feel more than they say. The ones who live most of their lives internally, observing, processing, waiting for something they can't quite name. You didn't stumble into this. You aligned with it. Notice the timing. The hour feels unusual, maybe even inconvenient. And yet here you are. Across different time zones, different countries, different lives, there are others like you tuning in right now, quietly, privately, often alone. Some of you are listening with the lights off. Some with a screen glow reflecting back at you. Some pretending this is just background noise, even though something in your chest already knows it isn't. There's a reason this couldn't happen earlier in the day. There's a reason it didn't arrive when everything felt organized or clear. Certain transmissions only come through when the world slows down. This moment is a kind of doorway. Not dramatic. Not loud. More like a window left slightly open at night, letting in air you didn't realize you were starving for. You may feel it as a subtle restlessness. A pull to stay a little longer. A sense that if you leave now, you'll miss something important, even if you can't explain what that something is yet. That's the signal. Right now, the energy around you is not fixed to one place. It's moving, traveling, bridging distances. What started in one city is now passing through many, New York, Dubai, places you've never been, places you've dreamed about, places you left behind emotionally even if your body never went there. This isn't about geography. It's about transition. You might be in between versions of yourself, between decisions, between who you've been and who you're quietly becoming. And if you're honest, this in-between space has felt lonely. Like standing in an empty room with the lights on, waiting for the furniture of your life to arrive. Tonight isn't about forcing clarity. It's about opening a channel. You don't need to do anything yet. You don't need to understand everything yet. Just stay with this moment. Because what's opening now didn't feel safe to open before. And what's about to be said will make more sense a little later. The energetic climate shifting around you. Something subtle has been building, and you felt it even if you couldn't name it. A mental restlessness. A sudden flood of thoughts at odd hours. Ideas showing up uninvited, tapping on the inside of your awareness, refusing to be ignored any longer. This is the moment the moon slips into Gemini. And Gemini doesn't whisper. It activates. Your mind may feel louder than usual right now, not chaotic, but busy in a way that feels purposeful. Like drawers being opened that haven't been touched in years. Conversations replaying themselves. Questions resurfacing that you thought you'd already answered. You may have noticed this today. Or yesterday. That strange urge to rethink your direction. To revisit plans you abandoned because the timing wasn't right. To look again at ideas you once loved but told yourself were unrealistic. This isn't random. Gemini energy stirs the mental body, but it doesn't do it gently. It asks you to engage, to communicate, to move what's been trapped inside your head into the world where it can actually breathe. And while this is happening, something more intense is moving underneath it. Mars is activating Pluto in Aquarius. This isn't soft energy. It's pressure. The kind that wakes you up. You may feel it as impatience, or frustration, or a sudden surge of motivation that doesn't match your current circumstances. A feeling like, I can't keep doing this the same way anymore, even if you're not sure what this is yet. Old desires are waking up, not the shallow ones, but the ones tied to your identity. The dreams you buried because they required visibility, or vulnerability, or asking for support. You may have felt a flash of anger recently, or determination, or an almost uncomfortable clarity about what you've been avoiding. That's Mars and Pluto working together. They don't destroy for no reason. They expose what's been suppressed. And Aquarius brings this energy into the collective future. Your role in it, your voice in it, your place among others rather than apart from them. If you've been questioning your purpose lately, this is why. If you felt pulled towards something that doesn't fit your current life structure, this is why. If you've had sudden urges to change direction, start over, or finally take an idea seriously, this is why. But notice this, the urgency you're feeling isn't asking you to rush. It's asking you to pay attention. Right now, the universe isn't demanding action yet. It's demanding honesty. Honesty about what still excites you. Honesty about what no longer does. Honesty about the parts of you that are tired of waiting for permission. You may feel like something is knocking from the inside. Not loudly, persistently. And you don't have to answer it all at once. But you can't pretend you don't hear it anymore. Because what's resurfacing now didn't come back to haunt you. It came back to be chosen. And this will matter more than you realize, very soon. When old dreams knock again. You may have felt this recently, maybe in quiet moments you didn't expect it. An old idea drifting back into your awareness. A vision you once carried so vividly that it almost felt like a promise. Until life asked you to be practical, realistic, responsible. So you put it away. Not because you stopped caring, but because you were told, directly or indirectly, that it could wait. Now it's back. And it's arriving differently this time. Less dramatic. More grounded. Not asking you to leap, but asking you to look. Gemini energy doesn't demand immediate action. It invites review. It opens mental drawers and asks, what did you leave unfinished here? And as those drawers open, you may notice patterns you didn't see before. Moments when you chose safety over truth. Times when you delayed because the path required visibility, risk, or explaining yourself to people who wouldn't understand anyway. You may hear an inner dialogue starting to loop softly. Is this really what I want? What if I had tried? What if it's not too late? That voice isn't trying to disrupt your life. It's trying to align it. Right now, you're standing between two familiar energies. The comfort of what you know, and the quiet pull of what you never fully let yourself explore. And here's the part most people miss. This phase is not about deciding everything. It's about acknowledging what still matters. You're not being asked to abandon your current life overnight. You're being asked to stop pretending that certain desires don't exist. Because the longer they stay unspoken, the heavier they become. You may feel pressure to figure it out, to make a move, to have a plan. But this moment is earlier than that. This is the planning phase. This is where ideas need to leave the mind and touch something physical, even if it's just paper. A note in your phone. A voice memo you never send. A half-written outline that no one sees. Because once a dream is written down, it changes status. It's no longer just a thought. It becomes a conversation. You might resist this. Tell yourself it's pointless to revisit old hopes. That you're different now. More realistic. But realism doesn't cancel destiny. It refines it. The version of the dream returning now isn't naive. It understands timing. It understands limits. It understands you better. And it's not asking for perfection. It's asking for honesty. If no one were watching. If no one were judging. If you didn't have to explain yourself. What would you still want? Sit with that question. Don't rush to answer it. Because the universe is about to introduce a new variable into this equation. One that involves other people, whether you're ready for that or not. And that's where things begin to shift in ways you didn't expect. The moment support becomes visible. There's a reason the pressure hasn't been constant. A reason the intensity comes in waves instead of crashing all at once. Right now, something softer moves in to meet it. As the moon continues its path through Gemini, it forms a gentle harmony with Venus in Aquarius, and this changes the tone completely. The energy shifts from, do it alone, to, you don't have to. You may notice this as a subtle opening. A text you consider sending but don't. A conversation that almost happens. A sudden thought about someone you haven't spoken to in a while, followed by the quiet question, what if I reached out? This is not coincidence. Venus in Aquarius doesn't bring support in the traditional sense. It doesn't promise romance or rescue. It brings connection through alignment. People who understand the frequency you're operating on, even if they don't share your history. Help, right now, is trying to arrive through human channels. But here's the part that feels uncomfortable for you. You're used to being the one who handles things quietly. The one who adapts. The one who figures it out internally before letting anyone else see the process. Asking has never felt natural. It feels exposed, inefficient, risky. So when the energy opens a door, you hesitate. You might tell yourself you don't want to bother anyone, that it's easier to do it yourself, that people don't really show up anyway. But that belief didn't come from truth. It came from repetition. There was a time you asked, and it didn't go well. Or you needed support and no one noticed. Or you learned early that being capable was safer than being honest. And so you adapted. But adaptation can quietly become isolation. Right now, the universe is not asking you to depend on someone blindly. It's asking you to communicate, to name a need, to let something be known instead of carried alone. This doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be emotional. It doesn't even have to be successful the first time. It just has to be expressed. Because Venus here is showing you something important. Support doesn't always look like someone fixing things for you. Sometimes it looks like being seen mid-process. Like sharing a thought before it's fully formed. Like allowing someone to respond, even if you're not sure how they will. And yes, you may feel resistance. A tightening in the chest. A familiar instinct to pull back. A thought that says, I'll handle it later. That resistance is the very thing being highlighted now. Because what you're about to step into next cannot be sustained in isolation. Not because you're weak, but because you were never meant to carry everything alone. And the cost of refusing support is higher than you think. We'll talk about that next. The hidden cost of doing everything alone. There's a pattern you've mastered so well that it almost feels like strength. You step in. You handle it. You don't wait. You don't ask. On the outside, this looks like independence, reliability, emotional control. The kind of person others quietly depend on without realizing how much weight you're carrying. But underneath it, there's something else. A belief that needing support means you've failed somewhere. That asking makes you vulnerable in ways you can't afford. That if something is going to get done properly, it's safer to do it yourself. This didn't come from arrogance. It came from adaptation. At some point, you learned that being self-sufficient reduced disappointment. That relying on yourself hurt less than waiting for someone else to show up late, or not at all. So you became the giver, the fixer, the emotionally steady one. And over time, receiving started to feel foreign. Even when support is offered, you may downplay your needs. Say you're fine when you're not. Deflect with humor or silence. Not because you don't want connection, but because you don't want to risk being let down again. Here's what's rarely talked about. Refusing help doesn't just protect you. It blocks circulation. Energy is meant to move. Support is meant to flow both ways. When you constantly give without allowing yourself to receive, something quietly hardens inside. Resentment you don't acknowledge. Fatigue that doesn't go away with rest. A sense that you're unseen even when you're surrounded by people. You may have felt this as emotional numbness lately. Or irritation over small things. Or a quiet question you don't like admitting, who shows up for me? This is the spiritual cost of being too strong. Not burnout, disconnection. Because the universe works through exchange. When you block one side of it, you're not just denying yourself support, you're interrupting the entire flow. And here's the part that might surprise you. Your refusal to receive doesn't just affect you. It affects others too. There are people who want to contribute, who want to feel useful, who want to be part of something meaningful. When you don't allow space for that, you unknowingly deny them that experience. This isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. Right now, the energy around you is gently asking you to soften the armor, not remove it completely, just loosen it enough for something new to move through. You don't have to explain your entire story. You don't have to expose your deepest wounds. You only have to stop pretending you don't need anything at all. Because what's coming next reframes everything you think you know about giving and receiving. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. When receiving becomes an act of giving, there's a quiet misunderstanding you've been living with for a long time. That giving is noble, and receiving is optional. But the truth is more subtle than that. Energy doesn't recognize hierarchy. It recognizes movement. When you allow yourself to receive, you are not taking something away. You are completing a circuit. You are allowing energy to do what it was designed to do: flow, exchange, return. This is where the perspective shifts. Think about the moments when you have helped someone. Not out of obligation, but because it mattered to you. Because contributing gave you a sense of purpose, meaning, connection. That feeling wasn't accidental. Contribution is one of the deepest human needs. And yet, when you refuse help, you quietly deny others access to that experience. Receiving is not passive. It is participatory. When you accept support with openness and gratitude, you give others the gift of usefulness, of relevance, of being needed in a way that's genuine. This is the energy exchange principle. You may have been taught, explicitly or indirectly, that self-worth comes from what you provide, from how much you carry, from how little you need. But worthiness isn't proven through endurance. It's expressed through honesty. Right now, the universe is inviting you into a different posture. Not dependence. Not weakness. Mutuality. You don't have to over-explain your needs. You don't have to justify them. You don't have to shrink them to make others comfortable. A simple truth spoken clearly creates more alignment than silent struggle ever could. You might notice this shift internally before it shows up externally. A softening. A release of tension you didn't realize you were holding. The realization that you don't actually want to do everything alone anymore. That's not failure. That's evolution. And as this understanding settles, something else opens. Communication becomes easier. Not perfect. Not dramatic. Just smoother. Because when you stop guarding your needs, your words carry less resistance. They land differently. They're received differently. And this is exactly why the next phase is about speaking, clearly, calmly, without bracing for impact. The window for that is already opening. And it won't stay open forever. The 72-hour window where words land differently. You may already feel it. A slight easing in your chest, a sense that conversations don't feel as heavy as they did before. That's not imagination. It's timing. Over the next 72 hours, the energy around communication softens in a way that works in your favor. The Moon, Venus, and Mercury begin to cooperate rather than compete. And when that happens, words stop feeling like risks and start feeling like bridges. This is important for you because there are things you've been holding in, not because you don't know how to say them, but because you've been waiting for the right moment. This is that moment. Not in a dramatic, life-altering way. In a grounded, human way. You may notice that when you speak now, you're less defensive. Less braced for misunderstanding. You may even surprise yourself by how calmly something comes out. Something you've rehearsed internally 100 times but never trusted enough to release. This is the portal opening. It favors honesty without over-explaining. It favors asking without apologizing. It favors clarity over control. You don't need to script everything perfectly. In fact, this energy works best when you don't. When you let the words arrive naturally instead of forcing them into shape. A message you've been drafting in your head may finally get sent. A conversation you've been avoiding may suddenly feel manageable. A request you thought would be uncomfortable may land more gently than expected. And here's the part you don't see yet. The response you receive may not look exactly how you imagined, but it will move things forward. That's the real gift of this window. Stagnation breaks. Doors don't necessarily swing wide open, but they unlock. Enough for light to get in. Enough for momentum to return. This is why the phrase, "ask and you shall receive," keeps surfacing now. Not as a promise of instant results, but as a reminder that silence has been the only thing truly blocking you. You've already done the inner work. You've already clarified the desire. Now the energy supports expression. Use it simply. Use it honestly. Use it before the window shifts again. Because what you initiate now sets the tone for what unfolds next. And that unfolding is tied to something bigger, something communal, something that's already approaching. You'll feel it when it arrives. The quiet yes that changes everything. If you've stayed until now, it's because something inside you already said yes, long before your mind caught up. Yes to being seen. Yes to not doing everything alone anymore. Yes to allowing life to meet you halfway. You don't need to prove your worth to receive support. You don't need to earn rest, clarity, or connection. You were never behind. You were preparing. Right now, the energy around you is stabilizing. Not rushing. Not demanding. Just reminding you of something simple and easy to forget when you've been strong for too long. You are allowed to receive. You are allowed to ask. You are allowed to be supported without explaining your entire story. You are allowed to want more without feeling ungrateful for what you already have. As this settles, notice how the pressure you felt earlier begins to soften. The urgency turns into direction. The restlessness turns into intention. What once felt overwhelming now feels workable. This is how alignment usually arrives. Quietly. Without spectacle. And there's more opening soon. A collaborative energy point approaches, one that emphasizes balance, partnership, and shared momentum. A reminder that what you're building doesn't have to be built in isolation. That some doors open only when two or more energies meet in trust. If something within you feels drawn toward connection, toward learning how to work with others instead of around them, trust that pull. It's not random. It's responsive. Before you move on with your day or night, take a moment. Let gratitude land. Not the forced kind. The simple recognition that you made it here. That you listened. That you stayed open even when it felt unfamiliar. And if you feel called to continue this energy, to explore how intention becomes reality when support and clarity meet, stay close to what's unfolding next. Some things manifest faster when they're shared. For now, just know this. You are not alone in this phase. You never were. You were simply learning how to let yourself be met. And when you're ready to take the next step, you'll know exactly who to ask. Stay open. Before you leave this moment, take a breath and notice what shifted. Not everything needs to make sense yet. Not every answer needs to arrive tonight. What matters is that something inside you softened. Something loosened. Something you've been carrying alone finally felt seen. That's how real alignment works. Quietly. Without forcing belief. Without demanding action before you're ready. You didn't listen to this because you were lost. You listened because you're transitioning. From holding everything in, to letting life respond. From surviving independently, to allowing support to meet you where you are. And this phase doesn't require perfection. It only requires honesty. Let the next few days unfold naturally. Pay attention to what you feel called to say. Notice where asking feels lighter than before. That's the signal working. If this message resonated, don't rush past it. Stay connected to this space, because these transmissions are timed, not random, and they don't come to everyone the same way. If you feel the pull, subscribe and stay close. Not for content, for continuity. And if there's one thing you can do right now, leave a single word in the comments that captures what you're feeling. Not an explanation. Not a story. Just one word. Sometimes naming it is enough to let it move. You're not late. You're right on time. And the next door opens. Because you finally allowed yourself to knock.